Hello, moderators in training, and moderators and other interested Braver Angels folks. I'm Bill Doherty, and I'm going to be talking in this video about how new workshops come to being. So what's the process for developing new workshops? As you know, we started out with a red-blue workshop. We didn't have a name for it at the time, December of 2016. We thought that it was probably a one-off. So the we here with David Blankenhorn, David Lapp, and I, we just decided to do it. And then the group didn't want to stop, and we went back for a reunion and decided we had something here and we had to keep going. I knew that a 13-hour workshop over a weekend was not going to be a dosage that would be scalable in the country. And so I went back to Minnesota and developed a 3-hour version that seemed to have a meaningful impact, and then a all-day version, better, bigger dosage. And then I thought, well, we also need something that would be teaching skills for working across political divides, and that could have larger numbers. So develop that and pilot it. And so it was pretty much at the beginning just kind of happenstance as the two Davids and I thought our way through this. Then we had an opportunity during the bus tour in the summer of 2017 to really refine the workshops as we went through them in different towns over time, and kept working on them. So that's how we all got started in this work. So the workshops got started, and then we began to add others. And so gradually a process emerged to add new workshops. So I'm giving you the sense that we didn't have some big strategic plan on this. We just sort of were winging it at the beginning. However, we developed this process that I'm going to walk you through. So the first step is identifying a need. Do we need something new? And usually that comes about from conversations, from being in workshops, in listening to folks. Moderators do workshops and get feedback from members. So, for example, the Families in Politics workshop came out of this realization that I had and some others were having, that when we ask people why they come to workshops, the two biggest reasons are they're worried about the country and they're worried about their families. And so family relationships and strains just kept coming up over and over. And so, okay, so we identified something and then run it by folks. So occurred to me, why don't we do something here, check it out, informal conversations, what are the pluses, minuses of doing this? So there's a kind of need identification, and then a whole bunch of conversations about whether we'd want to do it. Next step is to develop desired outcomes and design principles for the workshop. So we always talk about what do we want people to leave with? What are the desired outcomes? And what would be some design principles? So design principles are size of the workshop, amount of participation. Is this going to be looking more like a red-blue, like the Common Ground workshop that Rena Bernards took the lead on? Is it going to look dialogic, or is it going to be more skills-oriented? Now, during the pandemic, is it can be put online as well as face-to-face? So design principles, and then running the desired outcomes and the design principles around with a number of Braver Angels leaders. So always start there. Who are the participants? What are the desired outcomes we hope for them? And what are some of the design principles that would go into the workshop? And so the third step then is to go through iterations of a workshop plan. So the plan is how do you implement the desired outcomes and the design principles for those participants. And for those that are going to be online simultaneously, somebody with good skills in the developing of slides is working on what would be the look of the slides. What are some of those design features there? So iterations of a workshop plan, running them by people, developing a first draft and a full first draft, and then having people take a careful look at that and do a revision, and then a pilot, for most of our workshops that I've been developing, I do the pilot if it's online, with the help, of course, of a big team. If it's local in Minnesota, where I am, it's again with the help of a team, with organizers and other moderators locally. A number of them always come to the first workshop. So they get a sense of it, and so they can also help me process how it went. So for instance, when you get a moderator in a breakout group, they can give me feedback about how that went. And so that initial pilot, having some regular members of the public, or sometimes we've even limited it to Braver Angels members, around topics that are brand new, like the workshop on depolarizing conversations about race, where it's a dicey topic. We limited the pilot to Braver Angels members, and we had a number of moderators on this, so we could really get our minds around how this is going. And we get feedback afterwards, of course, written feedback, but for the workshops that are done online, we invite people to stay after the pilot to give informal feedback as well as the written feedback. Remember with the new race workshop, about 2/3 of the people, it was over a 3-hour workshop, and 2/3 of them stayed on for another half hour to give to give verbal feedback. So getting lots of feedback, which is terribly important for these workshops to really be tuned. And now I'm going to talk about what we've done on land workshops. So in Minnesota, then I do some more, and again, more moderators come, more organizers, and at some point, one of the local moderators does one with me, does one alone. So we make sure that it isn't just something that I can do and that nobody else can do. And each time we're tuning, and when they're done online, there's a very careful process of a team, a development team handling the logistics of this, the slides, the Zoom aspects of the meeting. So that group does the pilot, and then another pilot. So there I would do the first pilot, then somebody else moderates the second pilot, and I'm not doing the moderation, but I'm there and observing, and we have our conversation, and then it moves to field testing. And the field testing stage, none of the developers, either of the slides, like Steve Saltwick has done many of those, or I am directly involved, but we observe, and it's done by people in the field. And again, more evaluation, more feedback, both participant evaluation, but also evaluation of the team that did it. We do a couple of those, and then we're ready for the final revisions and for the national rollout. So it's we've come a long way from hey, why don't we try something, and so this is a process that's working for us, that ensures that it's been looked at, that it's been vetted, that we get participant feedback, moderator feedback, organizer feedback, and that is doable by many or most of our moderators who are interested in that, in that topic, in that area. So that's what goes into all of these, and we've developed so many that for the training of moderators, we can't ask the moderators to go through, in moderators in training, to go through the details of all of them. So we just have a couple of workshops that we want to make sure that our moderators in training have gone through in detail. But as you probably have noticed, there's enough kind of commonality over time of what our Braver Angels workshops look like, that moderators who have the principles, who have the skills, who have gotten down some of the basic workshops can do those others, preferably first with somebody else who has done it, and then on your own if it's on land, or even on your own as a moderator for online. Then you're able to do it by yourself, although it's still great to have two moderators at many of our workshops. So that's the process. That's the process we use. And I just want to say that it has felt increasingly like a big team effort. It makes me feel less alone. What it does for Braver Angels is that it makes us not a one-trick pony. And we're not a technology. We're not a, okay, here's our offering to the world, and then we push that out no matter what the need is, if you will. It allows us to have a degree of flexibility. And I'll end with an example of the flexibility. When a local alliance group had an opportunity to do a Red Blue workshop with political leaders in this town, mayors, city council people, as well as some members of the public. This is a really big deal. And having done some work with political leaders in Minnesota with congressional staff people and some members of the legislature, I knew that we had to modify this workshop because the stereotypes exercise would be too risky for political leaders to engage in. Okay, I mean, here's people think we're racist, and yeah, maybe there's a kernel of truth, or people think we're arrogant elitist, and yeah, I guess we are. No matter how much you might want to think it's nobody's going to talk outside of our meeting, they may. And so we designed an alternative exercise to the stereotypes that is one that we've used in some of the weekend workshops of what life experiences have influenced your approach to public policy and the public good. And that worked great. That worked great. And so we have a variation of the Red Blue for political leaders that they did, and then we'll test in other places. We'll make sure it works in other places, and we'll make sure that the exercises go well and so on. And then that would be a variation on the Red Blue when you have public officials involved. And there also might be other groups, foundation leaders or, college presidents, whatever, people who are publicly out there who may not want to take certain kinds of risks. So that's an example of variations in our workshops that can occur, but again, in a way with a lot of consultation, a lot of thought, a lot of field testing, and then they're ready for prime time. So I'm very proud of how far we've come, how we're doing this collaboratively, sticking to the core of what we do, and also expanding to meet the needs of our ever-changing country.